Okay. Okay, Smita. So what's your question? Can you state the question clearly and why the question is there?
Know the deeper meaning of the seventh shloka in Mandukya Upanishad. It says Nanta Pragnana Vishpadna. If one shloka it contains both negation and assertion of the transcendental state. So I want to know a complete meaning of that shloka.
Okay. So your question is about the Mandukya Upanishad sloka. Na antapradnaha, na vaishpradnaha, na ubhaypradnaha, na pradnanaganaha. So that shloka, the essential meaning of the shloka, you want to understand. So I want to give the context of Mandukya Upanishad, because if the question I have taken in isolation, the context will not be clear. So I'll give the context of Mandukya Upanishad. So there is a dialogue between Hanuman and Sri Ramji. Hanuman asks Sri Rama, what is the shortest way to realize the truth? Self-realization. Okay. For Jnana, what is the way? Sri Rama says, study Mandukya Upanishad. Only a few slokas, 12 slokas. So that is the shortest and the surest way for self-realization or Jnana. Then Hanuman asks Rama, if I am not able to get through the Mandukya Upanishad, what is the next step? Then study 108 Upanishads. They are alternative. The Mandukya Upanishad, a small Mandukya Upanishad has so much of depth and breadth. Okay, it's unimaginable how much it packs. The beauty of Mandukya Upanishad, it takes our individual states of consciousness and relates to the universal states of consciousness and brings out the oneness of Jivatma with the Paramatma. Any Upanishad, for that matter, is there to teach you oneness of individual with universal. Jivatma, Paramatma, Ekatvam. There are many statements in Upanishad which tell Jivatma, Paramatma, Ekatvam directly. So, Tattvamasi, you are that, you are Brahman, is a direct statement. Such statements which give the oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma, they are called Mahavakyas. There are many Mahavakyas in Upanishad. Upanishads are full of Mahavakyas. The entire purpose of Upanishad is to teach you oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma. There are 4 Mahavakyas are chosen for the purpose of illustrating. We are taken from each Upanishad. Tattvamasi, I am Atma Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi, Pradnanam Brahma. These are taken from 4 major Upanishads, coming from Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, to tell you the essence of Vedas is Jivatma, Paramatma, Ekatvam. And all the 4 Vedas are covered. And Upanishads, which is a summary of the 4 Vedas, are covered. And the essence of that Upanishad also is covered in the 4 Mahavakyas. But never be under the impression that there are only 4 Mahavakyas. There are many, but for the purpose of communication, only 4 Mahavakyas are taken. So what is the essence of this? Jivatma, Paramatma, Ekatvam. Now, how can be an individual one with the universal? The individual is a concept. It's not a reality. The wave is water only. The wave appears as name and form. Name and form are concepts in human mind. But really the wave is nothing but water. Similarly, individual can be one with the universal. That teaching is given in Mandukya Upanishad by analyzing the individual states of consciousness and relating it to universal states of consciousness. Individual and universal. So let us take the Mandukya Upanishad. I am not going to each sloka by sloka of Mandukya Upanishad. I am just to give you a summary and go to the actual sloka which you are asking. all of us know three individual states: waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. So these are called Jagrata Avastha, Swapna Avastha, and Sushupta Avastha. Mandukya Upanishad takes these three states. Why this takes these three states? Because these are universal. It is for me, for you, for anybody, for animals, everything is common, practically. It's our day-to-day experience. The Upanishads take us our day-to-day experience, and using our day-to-day experience, Upanishads point out the truth. So in that way, Upanishads make highest possible truths to the common man. We have a notion that spirituality or enlightenment or liberation is the reach of very few with some specialized states. Mandukya Upanishads breaks that notion. By looking at your own state of consciousness, waking state, dream state, deep sleep state, you can understand something about yourself. So these are the three individual states of consciousness: waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. Now, this is a state of ignorance. Why it's called state of ignorance? Because I'm not aware of higher states of consciousness. I live in a lower state of consciousness as an individual consciousness. I don't know how I'm related to universal consciousness. I don't know how I'm connected to universal consciousness. That's why it's state of ignorance. In this ignorance is qualified by three types of wrong misunderstanding. I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. I am the body is called Kartaham, I am the doer. I am the mind is called Bhoktaham, I am the intellect is called Gnataham, I am the knower. So the doer, knower, and enjoyer is my experience in the individual state. Okay. So these individual states are unleashed in Mandukya Upanishad in relation to cosmic states. So for example, so there's a waker consciousness, there's a dreamer consciousness, and deep sleep consciousness. In each of these states, there's a subject and object for me. The subjective state and objective state. The subjective state of waker consciousness is a waker's body is my subjective experience, my gross body. Waker's gross world is my objective experience. The dreamer's body is subjective experience. The dreamer's gross world is an objective experience. And the sleeper level, and conceptually, sleeper's causal body and sleeper's causal world is my subjective and objective experience. So the consciousness is the unchanging reality in all of this. The body changes. Waker body, dreamer body, deep sleep body changes. So now what is changing is called as Anatma, not the self. What is unchanging is called the self. So self or Atma is the unchanging reality. The waker, dreamer, and deep sleep, the body and the world is called Anatma. How many states are there? 3 states are there. How many Anatmas are there? 6 Anatmas are there. Waker's gross body and waker's gross world. Anatma. 2 worlds. In the waking state, 2 Anatmas, non-self. Dreamer's body and dreamer's world, 2 Anatmas. And deep sleep body, deep sleep world is another. Totally 3 states of consciousness, 6 Anatmas are there. Is it clear? So this is our common experience. Every day morning I get up. When I get up, I have a body and I see the world. When I go to dream, the dream body is there, dream world is there. In deep sleep, there's nothing is there. But my world, what is it called, waking world and dream world, or a waking world and waking body, must be in some form of seed form that I call causal world. So 3 states of consciousness and 6 states of Anatma is there for anybody. It's a common experience. Are we clear? So now, what happens in these states of experience? There's an experiencer and experienced. So this lady is the experiencer and the flowers are experienced. This I call a subject and object and experience. Any of our experience in the waking state or dream state is split into three: the subject, object, and experience. Correct? So when I'm saying, I'm showing that this lady is seeing the flower, in fact, it can be 5 experiences related to sense organs: touch, sound, smell, taste. Experience can be 5 types. Any of our experience, there is a subject and object and experience. There's a duality of subject and object. Correct? And this duality is threefold split in our experience. The threefold split is called Triputi. Threefold split is called Triputi. Any of our experience is threefold split: subject, object, and experience. Okay. This I can call as knower, known, knowledge. If it is related to sound, sound, hearing, and hearer. Like that, any sense organs, you have threefold split. So now, this threefold split, I can explain through an elephant analogy. There's an elephant, big elephant. 5 blind men are trying to figure out that elephant. Okay. 5 blind men are trying to figure out the elephant. And each person touches one part of the elephant. And each person comes to his own conclusion. Right? Somebody touches the trunk and says elephant means curved. Somebody touches the tusk and says the elephant means hard. Somebody touches the leg and says the elephant means a pillar. Like that, each blind man comes to his own conclusion. Our sense organs are like that blind man. It's very limited. We are trying to fathom out the reality out there and make a sense out of the reality. Senses make a senseless reality. Okay. They are not, our sense organs are limited, very limited. Right? I mean, to how limited you are to understand? A eagle can see flying in 1.5 kilometers above the sky. It can see one small rat moving. We cannot see even beyond few feet. Our eyes are limited compared to eagle. Bats can hear the sound which you cannot hear. Our eyes can hear only a limited distance. Especially if wife is talking or husband is talking, we can't even hear when she is near also. So our ears are limited. Our eyes are limited. Our sense organs are limited. With this limited sense organs, we are trying to figure out a reality out there. Then mind is also concluding something out of that reality. Mind is also limited. Okay, mind gives a name and form. In other words, we are trying to figure out a reality. Okay, our understanding of picture of reality is not complete, and you have perception of reality. And perception is not reality. The perception is not reality we understand by some small examples in life. Look at the sky. The sky appears to be blue. Scientists come back and tell us sky is not blue. Then sunrise happens in the east and sets in the west. The scientists come and say sun doesn't rise or set, earth goes around the sun. We see a rope and think it's a snake. We see a lamp post and think it's a ghost. So many such optical illusion happens. Now that raises the question to us. Is it only limited to that, or every aspect of our life is a perception? Understand? So that question comes to us. So that's like a 5 blind men trying to figure out an elephant. Okay. So now any experience, experiencer, experienced, and experience, all experiences are limited as momentary. Experience gives us happiness, but momentary experience doesn't give us satisfaction. We want to, why any experience there is a joy in us, or any experience suffering is also there. The joyful experience makes us feel expanded. I want that experience again and again. Is it possible to have the experience again and again? No experience can be repeated. Right? If you drink a cup of coffee and drink another cup of coffee, that experience cannot be repeated. Experiences are not repeatable. But we are constantly crave for experience. Why? Because experience gives us joy. A joy is a state of expansion. Experience gives expansion. It can be coffee, it can be tea, it can be looking at a beautiful picture, a movie, a dance. Any experience gives us momentary joy and momentary feeling of expansion. So why do we like the momentary feeling of expansion? Because we feel deep inside we have an urge to expand. So it's like a rubber ball, right? Rubber ball, when you squeeze, rubber ball is getting squeezed. But rubber ball, the moment you release that rubber ball, want to expand. Similarly, somewhere we are feeling squeezed. We want to expand. Where are we squeezed? We are squeezed in the body. I am the body is a squeeze on us. Body is limited. I am the mind is a squeeze, because mind, the nature of mind, happiness is expansion state of mind. But I am suffering. There's a squeeze. I am the intellect, also a squeeze, because this knowledge is limited. Any amount of knowledge is there, it's limited. But I want to get out of my boundary. Okay, is it possible? Can I come out of the squeeze? Is the question. Okay, so that's where our spiritual journey starts, because we keep on searching for happiness in the objects of the world. Everything what we find seems to be limited. Every experience seems to be limited. Every experience seems to be transient. So will I be able to ever get the bliss or happiness which is eternal? That's our search. That's real spiritual search. So in any experience of ours, there's a threefold breakup. As I told you, Triputi, experiencer, experiencer, and object of experience. Then in my concept also, there's a threefold breakup. Conceptually, I see myself conceptually as Jiva, individual. I see a big world in front of me, Jagat. And I believe that there's somebody who is controlling this, Ishvara or God. So there's a threefold split in my own understanding of life. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. So this is called any experience. Earlier I said Triputi is experience. So now this is the understanding, our model of the world. Jiva is there, I'm individual. Oh, very vast universe is there. Okay. And Ishvara is there, who is controlling this. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara is our understanding of world. The Vedantic teaching is Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara is only one reality. Okay. It's not three realities as you think. What you think may not be real now, but we never question what I think is real or not. Sky is blue for me one day. Is it really blue? I never think. Right? Okay. Until I question, the reality will not be able to understand. The Vedantic teaching is Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara is one reality called Brahman. Brahman means consciousness, pure awareness. It's not three. So then any of our desire for happiness translates into desire for oneness. I want to experience this oneness of Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. I want to be one with the, because that's the ultimate expansion possible. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. So that is the desire for liberation or moksha. I want to experience that oneness. Now, any experience is limited. So that's why one experience of oneness is also limited. Okay. Then I want to be one rather than experience oneness. Because experience comes and goes. Right? Experience is temporary. Even if I experience a great experience of oneness, still it's momentary. I want to be one with that Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara should be one reality. That's called Advaita or non-duality and Brahman consciousness. That's what we seek. So that's where the Mandukya Upanishad maps the individual consciousness, the universal consciousness. So the individual consciousness, the Vaker consciousness, I said Vaker, there are 6 anatmas, right? Each state, Vaker consciousness has 2 anatmas, dreamer consciousness has 2 anatmas, and deep sleep consciousness 2 anatmas. The Vaker consciousness associated with the Vaker body is called Vishwa. The universal consciousness, correspondingly, there's a Vaker world. Okay? The Vaker body and Vaker world. So the Vaker body, consciousness also the Vaker body is called Vishwa, individual consciousness. And consciousness associated with the universal body is called Veka. Consciousness associated with the Veka's world is called Vaishwanara or Virat. Cosmic form. Or Virat Purusha, cosmic form. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna shows this cosmic form to Arjuna. The cosmic, the total outer reality. There, the individual, to make us understand what is individual, what individual, when we say individual, 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 sense organs, 5 Karmendriyas, 5 organs of action, 5 pranas, Pancha pranas, Manasu Buddhi, Ahankara, Chitta, totally 19 parts is individual. Because when you say individual, then we'll start confusing. What is this individual? This 19 parts, one who has 19 parts is called individual. So that the consciousness, individual consciousness associated with Veka is called Vishwa. The corresponding universal consciousness, which is associated with the gross world, Veka's world, is called Vaishwanara or Virat. It's cosmic body. The cosmic body has 7 parts, Virat Purusha. The 7 parts are told for us to do meditation, understand the cosmic personality. This is Sri Krishna says this cosmic personality in Bhagavad Gita. It's called Virat Purusha Darshana or Vishwarupa Darshana. So the cosmic person, heaven is the sky. That's all the total space, total sky is the head. That's the head, right? So then sun and moon are the eyes. That's for visualizing the cosmic person. There's no cosmic person layer. To visualize this entire thing is a conscious being. Sun and moon, the eyes. The total atmosphere is the lungs. The space is the body. The lower regions are the bladder. The earth is the legs. So this is how a cosmic person is visualized. Individual and cosmic. Right? The dreamer's consciousness associated with that is called Taijasa. Taijasa has 90 parts and corresponding Hiranyagarbha or cosmic personality has 7 parts, just like waking state. The sleeper consciousness associated with the body is called Prajna. Okay. Sleeper consciousness associated with sleeper's body is called causal world. So like that, 6 individual consciousnesses is mapped with 6 universal consciousness. 3 individual states of consciousness is mapped with 3 individual universal states of consciousness. Vishwa, Taijasa, Prajna refer to individual states. Correspondingly, Vaishwanara or Virat, Hiranyagarbha and Ishvara, deep sleep. In deep sleep, there are no parts. Deep sleep, there's a homogeneous state. The entire waker state and dreamer state is in the causal condition. In the deep sleep. So now, in each of these persons, sleeper and waker and dreamer, I have put a shining light. That's called Atma, the consciousness. Okay. And there's a consciousness which is beyond this waking and dreamer and dreamer. It's called Turiya. So now let us understand this. What is this waking state, dream state, deep sleep state? The waking state, as I wake up, I get a feeling of I am, I exist. Then a body appears, then the world appears. If there is no gross body, there is no gross world. So the waker has a gross body and gross world. The waker, I am feeling, gets associated with the body and says, I am body when he explains the world. When consciousness associated with the body, gross body, everything in the world appears to be gross. Okay. So then you go to dream state. The waker body and waker world disappears now. In the waking state, you are in Bangalore, you are a professional engineer working somewhere, you have a family. In the dream state, suddenly you enter into another world, the dream world. For all you know, he may be living in London or Paris, and you have a different family, you have a different lifestyle. In the dream state, you will never question, is this a dream? Waker is forgotten. Waker is gone. Waking world is gone. In the deep sleep state, nothing is there. There's no world. There's no individual also. So now, if you look at these states, what can you understand from these states? From the waker point of view, dream world is unreal. There is no dream world, because when you wake up, the dream world has disappeared. The dream world, dream family which you have in London or Paris, your dream life is all you love. It's all unreal. But the same dreamer, for him, the waking world is unreal. Waking world is not there. For him, the dream world is real. So look at the dreamer point of view, waking world is unreal. Looking at the waker point of view, dream world is unreal. Then go to deep sleep part. Deep sleep person point of view, the waker world is not there, dream world is not there, waker body is not there, dream body is not there. Now, out of these, who are you? Waker or dreamer or deep sleep person? If you look at the waker and dreamer, they're totally different personalities. There's no commonality at all. In the waking world, you are an engineer working in Bangalore. In the dream world, you are an artist working in Switzerland. There's no commonality at all. But even though there's no commonality, in the waking state, you comment on the dreamer and say he's different, he is not real. How can you judge? Because waker is not in the dream world. You are not there in the dream world, but you're still judging about dream world. Is it possible? Waker is never in the dream world. Correct? You can comment on something where you are present. When the waker is present, dreamer is not there. Dreamer is present, the waker is not there. But waker can still comment on the dreamer. A dreamer can still think about the waker. Dreamer says waker is unreal. Waker says dreamer is unreal. Which of this is real? Who is saying this? You are only saying. One who is saying in both the places. In the waking state, you say dream is unreal. In the dream state, you say waker is unreal. That means somebody who is in both states only can say, no. Somebody is in one state only cannot say comment on the other state. Correct? So in the deep sleep state, say nothing is real. No, waker world and dream world both are unreal. So the one who is there in all the three states can only say that. So that means you are beyond these three states. Right? If you are one of the states, then you cannot comment on other states. You won't even know the state. So one who knows all the three states only can comment. Then one who knows all the three states is none of the three states. That one who is in all the three states is the Atma or the self or Sakshi or witness of these three states. So the states come and go. The waker world, waker has a lot of business loss in the waking state. But dreamer has a lot of, he made a lot of money in the dream state. Okay. Deep sleep guy is not bothered. Right. So that means you don't carry forward what is in the waking state to dream state. You may carry forward some impressions, but your money, position, power, you don't carry forward. So the one who is witnessing this is not identified with any of this. If he's identified, he cannot move from one state to other state. The Atma or Sakshi is completely unattached and unidentified. Who are you really? Is the waker you, or dreamer you, or deep sleep person you? Who is you really? One who is present in all these states, but one who is not affected by these states is real you. Right? That one who is present in all the states, but one who is not identified with these states is called Atma. So that's why Mandukya Upanishad opens up with the statement Mahavakya, I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman, he says, Rishi. So now, what is this self? Me, what I call as me. So when the Rishi touches his head just and says, this self is Brahman. I am Atma Brahma. Now the problem comes to me. When Rishi touches the chest and says, I am Atma Brahma, is he referring to chest, shirt? Shirt is Brahman? Or chest is Brahman? Or my heart is Brahman? Or my lung is Brahman? Or my body is Brahman? What is the meaning of I am Atma Brahma? That's the question comes. This self is Brahman. Now, what is this self? All of us have a concept of understanding of self. Self is me. So the me has a different connotations. Me, when I interact with the world, I'm a man, I'm an engineer, or a doctor, husband, or wife. The me, as the world thinks, is one me. What world thinks of me is one meaning of I, or me, self. What I think of myself is another meaning of self. I'm happy, I'm unhappy, I'm suffering is another meaning. But Rishi is pointing out to not world, what world thinks of you, not what you think of yourself, what is real you. I am Atma Brahma. So for pointing out to I am Atma, Rishi is giving a indication. What is present in the waking state, what is present in the dream state, what is present in the deep sleep state. That Atma is Brahman. What is that Atma? That's called Pratyega Atma, the innermost self. Correct? Rishi is saying, I am Atma Brahma means Pratyega Atma is Brahman. The innermost self is Brahman. Now, where is the innermost? I understand innermost. Okay. So the inner, oh, the banana is there. Inside banana, inside this banana. So inner, the moment I say inner, we start looking for go inside. Okay. How do I go inside me? Okay. So now innermost has different meaning. Innermost is not go inside something. So go inner journey. So people say meditation means go inside. So then people start going inside. Okay, I'm going inside. What is that? It's not going inside. Right? You cannot go inside. What you will go inside? You'll find body, kidney, and liver. So that way, if people who go inside, if they realize God, then all surgeons, heart surgeons will realize God every day. They'll cut the heart and see heart. All kidney surgeons will find something. So it's not going inside, it's going inside the body. Then what is the meaning of innermost self? Innermost means the deepest aspect of you. Free from all objective experiences, or the pure subject. Pure subject. We have a subject object, right? Everything is the subject and object. The body is an object, mind is an object, intellect is an object. The innermost Atma, Pratyega Atma means pure subject, which is beyond all body, mind, and intellect. So that Atma is Brahman, is Rishi is pointing out. And why he is saying that? Because he is giving the waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. In all these states you are present. That Pratyega Atma is Brahman. So the Pratyega Atma definition is innermost self. Innermost self means don't start looking at the heart, kidney, liver, or chest. It's the subtlest of all of your experiences, the more real experience. For him, for the subtlest aspect of you, everything is object. The purest subject is Atma. Right? The purest subject of Atma is Brahman, he is saying. And where is the pure subject? Is there in the waking state, dream state, deep sleep state? And even when the waking state is dream state, deep sleep state is there, the subject is not there, then the subject is there. That's called Atma. Now you start getting a doubt. Oh, Atma is me, Atma is individual. Because the subject is individual for me. The Rishi says, immediately cuts that. Atma is Brahman, means infinite. Brahman means Brahat. So, moment you say Atma, you have a sense of limitation because you are going from the body and mind and intellect point of view. So Rishi, the Rishi of Mandukya Maharshi, immediately wants to cut that. Says, Atma is Brahman, means infinite. Now you are in a dilemma. How I can be, I am finite, and at the same time, how I can be infinite. So then Rishi has to give the definition of Brahman. He says, whatever you experience is Brahman. Yad bhutam yaccha bhavishyat, yad bhavishyat. Whatever you experience, the past, present, and future is Brahman. That means he is bringing the experienced. He went to the experiencer as Atma. Now experienced as world. World is Brahman. Okay. He brings the experienced aspect. And what he experienced, the past, present, and future, and what has not manifested and what will manifest in the future also. So world today is some form, after some time it may be in some other form. Unmanifest and manifest. Everything what comes into objective reality is called Brahman. Is Brahman. Right? So now what he is doing, he is equating the knower and the known. The subject and the object are one. You are the subject and object is the world. Experiencer and experienced are one reality. He is trying to say. Experiencer and experienced is one reality. World is your experience, Anatma. Okay, you are the experiencer, and experiencer and experienced are one. The knower is myself, and known is the world. Knower and known are one reality. Now we have know how the knower and known are connected. Knower and known are connected to experience. Right? Knower and known are connected to experience. Correct? So, for example, this banana, I eat banana. Banana is an object. I am the subject. I am the experience subject. Are there two banana and the experiencer? In the experience, experience and experience are both are one. That's why experience is there. So then now there's no triputi. Experience and experience is not there. Triputi is not there. Correct? Threefold split is not there. And the experience is there. Experience and experience are one. There's a non-dual experience is there. Correct? Any experience is like that only. Is it true? That you will understand and you'll enjoy music, pure, very nice music. There's very nice music coming and I'm listening. Then you start, you become the music. There's no I, the I as a subject and musician as an object. There's only music. The subject and object experience becomes the one reality. Isn't it? This is true in all your experiences. All your experiences, triputi is not there. When the experience is happening, the subject and object become one in the experience. That's why experience, we want to, everything you want in life, you want to experience, because I don't want anything separate from me. Experience makes the object and subject becomes one with me. Experience. In experience, there's no duality of subject and object. Correct? So Rishi is pointing out the knower and known, experience and experienced is only experience, is one reality. That's the meaning of I am Atma Brahma. Right? Now the problem comes. All experiences are temporary. So Atma is also temporary. Or Brahman is temporary. We'll come to that conclusion. Because there cannot be any experience, permanent experience. Right? Every experience is temporary. Experience comes and goes. So that requires a further understanding of Atma and Brahman. Experience appears and disappears. One is music. I'm hearing music, that music experience is there. Then I'm seeing a movie experience is there. Then I'm eating food. Food experience is there. Experiences keep on changing. But experiencer doesn't seem to be changing. I am the one who experienced food. I am the one who went for a movie. I am the one who enjoyed the music. Experiencer seems to be same. Correct? Experience doesn't seem to be changing. Experience seems to be changing. Clear? What is the nature of this experiencer? Is the question. So that's why Rishi says, I am Atma Brahma. He says this self is Brahman. Now what he is referring is Pratyagatma. Okay. And he is coming from individual consciousness point of view. Individual consciousness, that Atma here is the knower. Knower is the experiencer. Right? Because any experience, the knower is there. I ate banana. I experienced banana. The knower is there. I ate mango. Experience is there. I went to movie. Experience is there. Knower is the experiencer. When I speak of knower, knower takes the role of experiencer and doer. So knower is primary. Who am I? The knower. Correct? Knower is myself. Right? There is a knower, doer, and thinker. The knower takes the position of the doer and says, I am doing. Because when the doing is there, the knowing is there. Knower is there. Knower takes the position of doer. Knower takes the position of enjoyer. I enjoyed music. Knower takes the position of knower. I am the knower. So all teaching is for the knower. Doer and enjoyer, you can't give the teaching. Karta and Bhokta, you cannot give the teaching. The teaching is given to the knower because knower himself takes the role of a doer and enjoyer. Correct? Now all teaching is for the knower. What is the teaching for the knower? My dear knower, you are Brahman. You as a Pratyagatma is Brahman, innermost self. Now he'll ask the question, where is the knower in deep sleep? The knower in the deep sleep is a dormant condition. It's causal condition. It's called prajna. He is potentially knower, but not actually knower. Potential knower, not actual knower. Right? In deep sleep, there's a potential world, but it's no actual world. The knower in the deep sleep cannot get any knowledge because his sense organs and instruments are not there. Not there in this, they're in the dormant condition. So there's no knowledge or ignorance possible in the deep sleep. But the same knower who is in the dormant condition comes to the waking state and says, I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. The knower comes up, takes the position of the body, becomes karta, takes the position of the body. Knower is the intellect, right? Knower is the intellect plus chidabhasa, consciousness. Knower is not just the intellect, knower is the jiva. The intellect plus consciousness is called knower. Without consciousness, the intellect is just an instrument. Jiva is the knower. So jiva is the dormant condition in deep sleep. And waking state, it says knower comes up or jiva comes up and says, I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. Now who is suffering? The knower is suffering. When he says, body, I am the body, my all actions are limited. I cannot give me happiness. Happiness is the enjoyer. So limited enjoyment. So the knower has to be given the wisdom. The teaching, all teaching is for the knower. Right? Jiva. No teaching is possible for Atma or Brahman. What is the teaching given for the knower? Pratyagatma is Brahman. Your innermost self is Brahman. Now, and what is the nature of Brahman? Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Truth, existence, consciousness, and bliss is Brahman. Now the waker has a question. Deep sleep person, dreamer, and waker, they are different. So I must be one of these. How can be one of these? In the waking state, I am suffering. In dream state, I am suffering. Then the pointing out, what is pointing out is in deep sleep, you are not suffering. Deep sleep, there is a blissful sleep. In deep sleep, there is an awareness. Right? What is the awareness in the deep sleep? You are aware of nothing. Nothing is there. Do you exist in deep sleep? I exist in deep sleep. Is there a limitation of body there? No. Is there a limitation of time there? No. So free from limitation of time, free from limitation of time and space, you are there. Correct? So now, deep sleep, there's suffering because there's no knower. Suffering is not there, is a negative thing. There's no suffering. But deep sleep, there is a positive experience of bliss. Right? Bliss in deep sleep, you cannot deny. I want that bliss of deep sleep. So if you say knower is not there, that's why there's no suffering. But I'll also point out that there's a positive thing also. What is that positive thing? There's a deep experience of bliss. It's a positive thing. So, and why this bliss is there? There are no objects. Then who is there? Existence only is there. You are there. You know happiness by get a cup of coffee, coffee happiness, a tea happiness, right? If you don't get tea, there is a suffering. You don't get a coffee, suffering is there. Suffering is a negative thing. But positive experience is happiness. In deep sleep, there's a positive experience of happiness. Deep sleep, there's a positive experience of bliss. Correct? So now the positive experience of bliss, you already recognize. Correct? But no one, when he comes up, he has no bliss. He misses the bliss. Now, entire teaching of Upanishad is to make the knower to realize that you are the nature of bliss. You don't have to search for bliss. So the question, the comment which is there in the chat box is that knower cannot know, knower and bliss cannot exist. The knower has to recognize that I am the bliss. Understand? It's not that knower is not there, bliss is there. It's not correct. Knower has to recognize my nature is bliss rather than I have to search for bliss. Correct? The teaching is for the knower. What is the teaching of knower? My dear knower, you are Brahman. The closest to the Brahman is in a deep sleep state. You are experiencing bliss, Ananda. You are unlimited by body and mind. No space, no time. Now something, it's possible that limitations cannot be there. Still, I can be blissful. That positivity opens up. Otherwise, Brahman and all you cannot relate. To understand you are Brahman, deep sleep state is the key. Sushupti. Right? It's a temporary state, but that is a pointer to the nature of Brahman. Ananda is there. You exist. Existence is there. You are aware that nothing is there. Awareness, existence, Ananda is there. So that's why, and what is there in the deep sleep state is Sakshi. Because knower is absent, knower is dormant. So that Sakshi or Pratyagatma is Brahman, is being told. Now, what is the teaching for a waker? Two teachings are there. In deep sleep, there's a bliss, there's existence, there's awareness. And you are as a knower dormant, then knowing is there. The knowing is the Sakshi. The knowing is you. That is Brahman. So who has to know this? The waker has to know. The knower has to come, Gnata has to know in the waking state. Correct? So what is the nature? What is the nature of knowing? Sakshi in deep sleep is Brahman itself. Sakshi is not just in deep sleep. Deep sleep is in Sakshi. The question is, Sakshi in deep sleep is Brahman. That question itself is not correct. Sakshi is not in deep sleep. Sakshi is all the time. In waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. Deep sleep state appears in dream, Sakshi. That Sakshi is Brahman and you are that Sakshi. Okay. And you are the knower in deep sleep state. The knower is nothing but knowing, which is Sakshi, appeared as knower, as a reflection. The knower is in dormant condition, deep sleep. The knower appeared in the waking state because the Sakshi reflected as a Chidabhasa in the mind in the waking state. That becomes a Jiva. Chidabhasa is nothing but Sakshi. Chidabhasa is nothing but Sakshi, reflection now. My face in the mirror is nothing but my reflection in the mirror is not pointing to my face. Chidabhasa is pointing to Sakshi. Chidabhasa is appeared in the waking state with the intellect. Right? So the teaching is given that you are Brahman. For whom? For the waker. Right? And what is the meaning of Brahman? All that you see is Brahman. This is waker is the knower. Knower has taken the assumed position of doer and enjoyer, karta and bhokta. Then ignorance of the knower has to be removed. That's all the Atmandana. Ignorance of the knower is I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, I am the knower. I am the knower also is ignorance. I am the knowing principle Sakshi who is witnessing all these three. That's real I. That ignorance has to be removed. That's why the teaching I am Atma Brahma, Sarvam Khalu Brahma. All this is Brahman. All this cannot be Brahman with the variety, the name and form. So then you have to understand the name and form is Mithya. In the waking state, name and form is appearing, the world is appearing. In the dream state, name and form is appearing, world is appearing. Dreamer says waker is unreal, waker says dream is unreal, deep sleep, nothing is there. So that means whatever you're experiencing is unreal. The name and form is unreal. What is behind that name and form is the reality, Satyam. That is Brahman. So at the Satyam level, Atma and Paramatma, Atma and Brahman are one. Atma is Brahman. So the nature of yourself is existence, consciousness, bliss. Sat, Chit, Ananda. The nature of the world is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. The individual is Vyashti. The world is Samashti. Individual is like a tree and world is like a forest. How a tree and forest can be equal? Tree and forest are not equal. Essence of tree and essence of forest is equal. Same. It's like a ocean is there. And I take a cup of glass, water. Okay. A ocean can hold a ship. A glass cannot hold anything. But water is same in both. Similarly, Jivatma is one with Paramatma. The essence of Jivatma is Atma. The essence of Jiva is Atma. Essence of the world is Brahman. Atma and Paramatma are one. You have to understand. Of course, Paramatma has Ishvara a lot of powers. Jiva has no powers. Like a ship can be in the ocean, but ship cannot be in a cup of glass. Like that, Ishvara has a lot of powers. Now ignore the powers. Essence is same. Essence is water. Essence of Jiva and the essence of world is nothing but existence, consciousness, bliss, Satchidananda. That's what you are. This teaching has to be given. Right? So this is the Atma. So about Atma is told. Now, once you tell about Atma, next step question comes. Oh, I am Brahman. Till yesterday I didn't know. Till yesterday I thought I was husband and wife. Okay, today I am Brahman. How do I become Brahman? That was next question will come. How do I become Brahman? A natural question. I am finite. Because I am finite, I am suffering. This is duality. How do I become Brahman? Okay. From finite, I want to become infinite. Can you become from finite to infinite anytime? It's impossible. But finiteness is not acceptable to me. Somewhere I want to become infinite. I'm trying for that. My whole of life, I want to become infinite, right? I find myself limited. Why did you get married? Because I wanted to get a better half. Because already I'm a half. So, okay, already you're half. You want to find a better half. All my endeavors in life is to become Purna, complete. Expansion. So, when you marry, another chota half came. It's not another little bit tiny child came. You didn't become Purna. All my endeavors in life is to become Purna, incompleteness. So now there's a process of transformation happens. I want to transform. Somewhere I heard Tattvamasi, you are Brahman. So I want to become Brahman. I want to become one with Brahman. Then you enter into a transformation process. Right? The transformation is like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. It's like metamorphosis. I'm an individual. I want to metamorphose into Brahman, transform into Brahman. Is it possible? It's not practical. A finite can never become infinite, right? But still, we have human mind wants to give a shot. Let me try, right? Then you enter into devotion, bhakti for God, Ishvara, devotion. I love God because God is infinite, all powerful, right? You surrender to Ishvara. Initially, bhakti is for getting something from God. God give me this, God may give me that, God, you have a list of things, pending things. Education to God. Please give me this, please give me this, right? That's the first stage of bhakti, devotion. That's called kamya bhakti. Bhakti with desire. Then nishkama bhakti comes. God, I want you. So bhakti, kamya bhakti is I want something from God. Nishkama bhakti is I want God. Okay. So the nishkama bhakti translates into karma yoga. Bhakti yoga translates into karma yoga. Karma yoga and bhakti yoga are not different. What is this bhakti yoga? Bhakti yoga is devotion to God. So the God is everywhere. God is the world. God is manifest as the world. Everything in the world is nothing but God. So then my bhakti, devotion gets translated to service. Karma yoga. That becomes pancha yadna, deva yadna, pitra yadna, manushya yadna, bhuta yadna, rishi yadna. Service, karma yoga. Now all these are transformation processes, not transcendence. Right? Then this is upasana or meditation. Okay. Through meditation, first I meditate God is standing in front of me. Then I meditate God is in my heart. Then I meditate God is one with me. Somewhere I want to become one with God. I want to become infinite. Can finite become infinite? That question never comes into our head. Our desires are infinite. Okay, ambitions are infinite. Mumukshatva means I want to become infinite. Is it possible? But we do every attempt. That's why you enter into bhakti yoga, karma yoga, then upasana. Upasana means meditation. Now, whatever you call it, dhyana is meditation. It's all in the mental domain. So this is a process of transformation. Okay. Transformation is bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga translated to devotion service or karma yoga. Bhakti yoga and karma yoga are same thing. Same bhakti yoga becomes karma yoga. When you see God in your puja room, it's called bhakti. When you see God everywhere, it's called, and then you do service, it's called devotion service. Bhakti yoga, karma yoga. Right? Karma yoga translated to yadna, deva yadna, pitra yadna, manushya yadna, bhuta yadna, rishi yadna. Now, it's a process of transformation. There's an emotional transformation happens. Emotional stability comes into picture in your life. Bhakti yoga and karma yoga gives you emotional stability. It is better than earlier condition. Emotional disturbance to emotional stability. Earlier, emotional disturbance, every small thing in life was irritating me. Okay. Now, as a big transformation happened, emotion, I'm less disturbed because I've surrendered to God, Ishvara. I'm doing service to Ishvara. Emotional stability or emotional maturity, emotional stability is there. This is called sadhana chatushtaya in Vedanta. Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Uparti, Shraddha, Samadhana, Mokshitva, Viveka, Vairagya. The 6 qualities develops in you when karma yoga and bhakti yoga is there in your life. Emotional maturity will happen. But still you have not reached the goal. I have not become infinite. God is God, great. I am also small. Okay. God is infinite, I am finite. You are not satisfied. Huh? I understand. Either you God, you take me, dissolve me in you, so that I am not there. You only are there. Or God, you dissolve, I dissolve God. Either way, I have to become infinite. One case I become zero and God only is there. In the other case, God do something so that God is one with me. Somewhere I'm not satisfied with this finite limited condition. I'm not at all happy being a husband or a wife, not an engineer, not a doctor. What is the role which I'm playing for the world? Somewhere I want to transcend this, go beyond. So there are 2 ways of going beyond. When you say, I am zero, God alone is there. That's called Sharanagati, surrender. I'm nobody, God is everybody. Then you're surrendered. Then ego is gone. That's one way. This is called surrender. Right? So in Tat Tvamasi, Tat Tvam Asi, okay, Tvam is Jiva. Tvam can merge with Tat, or Tat can be, Tvam can be absorbed in Tat, or Jiva can realize that Tat is myself. Tat can become Tvam, or Tvam can become Tat. Tvam become merging with Tat. Tvam can become Tvam finding itself as Tat is called Jnana. Right? Aham Brahmasmi. Then I am surrendering completely to Tat Ishvara. Then I am not there. Ishvara alone is there. That's called Bhakti. The Bhakti which is started as Parabhakti, Apara Bhakti, lower level, God is separate from me. Then I am one with God. That's called Sayujya. Sayujya Bhakti. So Tat Tvamasi can be understood as either complete total surrender or complete knowledge, Purna knowledge. Complete surrender is called Parabhakti. Complete knowledge is called Jnana. Jnana and Bhakti are one and the same thing, in the same way. Both realizing Tat Tvamasi. Are you clear? But you have to do fully. You can't be part by part. So part Jnana, part Bhakti. God. Concoction you can make. There will be confusion. Right? So Jnana Yoga is through self-inquiry. Who am I? Then I realize I am pure consciousness. Pure conscious Brahman. Ishvara or totality is Brahman. I am Brahman. Jivatma is one with Paramatma. That understanding has to come. So that's why Upanishad starts with first knower and known are one. Okay. There's no duality in the experience. But the experience itself is temporary. So that experience you cannot consider as permanent. That's why you're craving for that. But the experience is permanent, which is knower. Knower also is not permanent because knower has comes up and goes down. In the deep sleep, it disappears and waking state comes up. Then you must be knowing principle, which is beyond permanent. Sakshi. That's the only eternal thing. That Sakshi is there. The Sakshi is Brahman. Sakshi appears as the world and Jiva appears as. So that way Upanishad is guiding us to non-duality. Atma, Paramatma, one. So then transformation is Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. Transformation. Yoga is transformation. Purification is required to get the emotional stability. Without emotional stability, you will not understand transcendence. Understand? Without emotional stability, you can't get transcendence. Why? Because if I come and tell you, you are Brahman, what nonsense. How can I be Brahman? You'll say, first thought. Okay, I am suffering every day. Anger is there, fear is there. How can I be Brahman? Right? You can't accept now. Easily. That's why many people have to go through a transformation journey because before they go to transcendence. Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is required for most of the people. Transformation. Before they are ready for transcendence. That's why Upanishads speak of Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Uparti, Shraddha, Samadhana, Shakt Sampati as a pre-qualification for Jnana. So Jnana is intellectual clarity. Okay. If you read 10 books on Tat Tvamasi, Vedanta, you will understand I am Brahman. Intellectual knowledge has happened. But inner transformation has not happened. No. If your intellectual knowledge has come, then you become a Pandita, scholar. Then you can give a very good lectures on Vedanta. But inner transformation happened, then you become a Jnani. So I call this as head and this as heart. Head and heart. Heart has to be heart. First, you should get emotional stability. That's called Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. Then head gets a Jnana. Okay. Then head and heart are integrated. That is required. Are you clear? If head and heart are not integrated, you are a disintegrated personality. If just intellectual knowledge is the Vedanta, then you become a scholar. Then many people say, I have understood, but I have not realized. Because realization has to happen deep inside. Subconscious impression has to go. The heart has to be purified. Chitta Shuddhi. Chitta Shuddhi requires a Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga to a large extent. Right? So that's why many Vedantic teachings put that's a pre-qualification for Jnana. Precondition. Otherwise, Jnana is very straightforward understanding Vedantic truths. Clarity. But the feeling of realization satisfaction comes head and heart at integrate. So head and heart, I will also say conscious mind and subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is a set of impressions. In subconscious mind, all your impressions are there. I am a body, I am a mind, I am intellect, I am so and so. That all those things you have to repeat. I am Brahman. The clarity of your head and heart. Now, head and heart, they cannot be described with hands. Your actions. Head, heart, and hand should go in sync. If you are on Brahman and the whole world is Brahman, then your hand should be always going for service, compassion, love. So head, heart, and hands getting integrated is called Jnana, Mukti. In the heart's hand which gets integrated, there's no doer. The heart gets integrated, there's no emotional disturbance. The head gets integrated, there's a clarity. So all those things together will come together, picture, making Jnani, a Jivan Mukta, liberated person. Are you clear? So now, this cannot happen suddenly, no? Right? Suddenly you are solving your day-to-day problems. How do I handle my office? How do I handle my business? Come and tell you, you are Brahman. It doesn't go into head. That's why Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga comes. A transformation process happens. Emotional stability will come. Clarity will come. Then you get ready for Jnana. Then that person is mature person, mature seeker. Right? It's like this. A rich man had lost his son. He keeps on searching for his son. 19 years have gone. He has not found his son. One day his servants find his son. They come and tell the rich man that your son is found. He's a beggar. The rich man will say, don't tell him that I am his father. He'll get a heart attack. Right? First give him some work, give him some money, let him some earn. He starts earning something. Then he starts growing business. From beggar, he becomes a worker. So a worker also shows his proficiency, becomes a chief worker. Then rich man comes and tells, you are my son. Like that, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga has to be developed first to get a proper Jnana. Transformation you have to go through before you go to transcendence. Right? Most of the people today, because of so much exposure of information is there, they'll get all Jnana. Tattvamasi, who am I? Who am I? But still there is no feeling of the inner satisfaction of being Brahman. That's called Trapti. That's because inner transformation has not happened. Inner transformation is subconscious cleanup. That's called Chitta Shuddhi. So together, conscious, subconscious. Chitta Shuddhi in Vedanta is called Nididhyasa. Shravana Manana gives Jnana, Nididhyasa gives Chitta Shuddhi. One level Chitta Shuddhi has happened because of this Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Now remaining things you will remove through Nididhyasa. Okay. So now, with that understanding, we have gone to Jnana Yoga. Transformation, transcendence, not transformation is called yoga. Transcendence is going beyond. So a finite can never be infinite. In the transformation process, you are finally trying to become infinite. Right? Then you have to understand, through Jnana, I am Brahman. That's a transcendence. Transcendence can happen only through Jnana. That's why Mukti is through Jnana. So now what's happening here? I am an individual, Jivatma, and there's a Jagat. Jagat, the world is Brahman, Atma is Brahman, and I am one with the world, I am one with Ishvara as Brahman. This understanding, Paramatma has to happen. So now for that, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, from Bhakti Yoga, the devotion service is external Bhakti. Puja is there, rituals are there, all those things are there. So from there, you start getting into outer practice to inner practices. It's called Upasana, meditation. So Upasana also different types of meditation you do. God is standing in front of me, I'm doing puja, Manasa Puja. God is in my heart. Then there's a Upasana called Ahamagra Upasana. Ahamgraha Upasana. Ahamgraha Upasana is I am one with the Brahman. This is called Swaham Dhyana. Typically what they call a Swaham Dhyana is Jivatma is one with Paramatma, meditation. What is the difference between meditation and Nididhyasa? Meditation involves visualization. Nididhyasa doesn't involve visualization. Nididhyasa is clarity. So Swaham Dhyana, there's still Upasana. I am Brahman. I am He. Okay. Then there's a Virat Purusha Upasana. The cosmic person, what Sri Krishna told in Bhagavad Gita, the Virat Purusha, right? The cosmic person. Cosmic person, Virat Purusha is nothing but Yadbhutam Echa Bhavishyati. Bhavishyati. Yeah, whatever is there in the past, present, and Mandukya Upanishad, whatever is there shown is Upasana. So that Upasana also many people do, because they have not yet gone to the innermost self. Their mind is still in the outer domain, right? So mind is subject-object reality is there. Subject and become one with the object. I want to become one with the Ishvara somewhere. So that Virat Purusha Upasana you do. Then Aham Graha Upasana. In Aham Graha Upasana, you want to become one with the cosmos. Right? That's all possible. That's all trying. People try. And they are called Upasana. Mandukya Upanishad has also secrets of Upasana hidden in that. Especially Virat Purusha Upasana. And another Upasana called Hiranyagarbha Upasana is there in the Mandukya Upanishad. That's Loka. Little bit small Upanishad. Okay. So then let us look at the states. So I put for the purpose of discussion. Okay. Don't take it hard and fast. There are purpose of discussion. There are put the 7 states of consciousness: a waker, sleeper, and dreamer. Right? Actually, yeah, waker, dreamer, and sleeper. Jagrata, Swapna, Sushupti. This is dreamer is this is Sushupti. These are 3 individual states. Okay, it's universal. Everybody experiences that. Then somebody wants to go to the next level of consciousness. Then you have to go to transcendental state. Transcendental is Turiya. So now Turiya is not a state. Turiya is beyond states. But still, I want to grasp it in the form of Samadhi. Right? Samadhi is also a mental state, just like waking state, dream state, deep sleep. Samadhi is a state where mind is absorbed. Okay? It's called Laya. Mind gets absorbed in the self. How does the mind get absorbed? Whatever we get attracted, our mind constantly thinks of it. Okay? Coffee, Samadhi you can have. Tea, Samadhi you can have until you get it. Friend, Samadhi you can have. So whatever your mind is constantly absorbed becomes Samadhi. Now your mind is constantly absorbed in Turiya. So then it becomes Samadhi. So how will this Samadhi state will be? It's like a waking sleep. Okay? It's called Jagrata Sushupti. Means you are fully aware, like a waking state, but you are deeply silent and thoughts are not there, like Samadhi, sleep. A 2-in-1 state. Okay? Why waking state? Because in deep sleep state, there's no Jnana possible. In the waking state, Jnana is possible. Okay? But bliss is missing. In deep sleep, bliss is there, but Jnana is not possible. Correct? In deep sleep, bliss is there, but no Jnana is possible. In waking state, Jnana is possible, but bliss is missing. Why bliss is missing? Because of so many thoughts. Right? Now thoughts reduce, you start experiencing bliss in the waking state. So then you understand, oh, I can experience bliss in Samadhi. That's also not correct understanding. I can experience bliss in Samadhi. Immediately you come out of Samadhi, oh, I want Samadhi again. I will go to Samadhi. When I'll go and meditation. That's also an experience. That's why still it's a mental state. Right? But now ignorance has gone a little bit. What is that? Oh, I can be happy. No one knows now I can be blissful. Right? Earlier, no one was searching for bliss. So no one knows I can be blissful whenever I go into Samadhi. Okay? This is called transcendental state. Many people have to keep on repeating this practice, Samadhi. Now what will happen? Earlier, individual and universal are separate. Jivatma and Paramatma are separate. Now, Jivatma and Paramatma are getting connected. Right? Whenever you do Samadhi or any of the spiritual practices, your Jivatma and Paramatma are getting connected. A sense of oneness is developing. Right? How does it develop? So, for entering into Samadhi, you have to make your mind silent. As you make your mind silent, your nervous system, your brain, all of them will become silent. Your body-mind complex becomes silent. Right? Now, earlier your body-mind complex was accustomed to a lot of noise. You are noisy. Now it's getting accustomed to the silence of Turiya. Okay. So now what will happen? When you come back to the world, your all worldly experiences will get mixed with Turiya. Earlier also is there. Earlier also Turiya was there. Earlier, Turiya is always like a background. In the waking state, dream state, deep state, Turiya is there as a background. Okay, but you don't recognize it. So you are the Turiya and you are there all the time, but you are not able to recognize. Now you will be in the waking state also, you start recognizing, because waking, the gap between the two thoughts, noise will be less. Understand? So now waking state become Turiya plus waking state, Turiya plus waking, Turiya plus thought, Turiya plus thought. Earlier only thought. Earlier also between two thoughts gap Turiya was there, but you are not able to recognize it because nervous system is so noisy. Now Turiya plus thought. So you start getting Turiya interspersed with the waking state. It's like movie is going on the screen. You're not seeing the screen. Momentally movie is off, screen is there. Momentally movie is off, screen is there. Like that Turiya becomes, you can start experiencing the, okay, this I call as witness consciousness or Sakshi Bhava. Sakshi. Right? So Turiya is also transcendental state as Sakshi, and Turiya is also. Now Sakshi, the Sakshi or Atman, okay, earlier it was becoming Jiva. Now Jiva is getting integrated with the Atman, self. So there's a sense of oneness developing. So then still deeper sense of oneness start developing, because now that's called at Virat Purusha level, cosmic level. Then you start getting deeper sense of oneness, because you are getting Hiranyagarbha, or subtle aspects of thoughts, feelings, emotions become more objective for you. Witness, earlier it's identifying with them. When you identify, you can't recognize. When you are de-identified, when you become a witness, you start recognizing subtler thoughts, feelings, and emotions. When you identify the body, okay, then your identification, with that identification, the body becomes you and the world becomes separate. The subject becomes the body. When your body becomes the object, becomes witness, the body is the object, then you are able to notice change in the body. When the mind and intellect, also subtle aspects of mind and intellect becomes, then you get in, you experience the universe as a Hiranyagarbha, subtle aspect of universe. The more and more you see Jiva and universe, every experience of universe you see temporariness. Earlier, every experience you are permanent, you are craving for that. Now, every experience is transient. Okay. So, this sixth stage is called God consciousness. This actually, I'm taking the terminology which Maharishi Yogi has used. It's not Vedantic terminology, but for the purpose of giving understanding. So, how the progressive transformation is happening. Up to level 6 is transformation, but 6 to 7 is transcendence. Okay. There's no path from 6 to 7. 6 to 7 is jump. Up to 1 to 6 is still a practice. 6 to 7 is a transcendence. I am Brahman. This I am Brahman Jnana can happen only through Shravana Manana Nidhyasa. Vedanta teaching. Atmadhyana. Shravana Manana only gives a clarity. Nidhyasa doesn't give mukti. Shravana Manana gives a clarity, I am Brahman. Okay, Nidhyasa will help you to remove impressions, remaining impressions. Some impressions have gone in Bhakti and Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. Nidhyasa gives a clarity. So when sixth stage comes, God consciousness, there's a deep love. Earlier, love was individual. Now, love is universal. And there's a feeling of oneness. This is where I say, you experience Hiranyagarbha or Ishvara. Oneness. Okay. Universal love develops. So at the Brahman consciousness level, the duality collapses. There's no outer and inner. There's no subject and object. There's only one reality. Advaita. The transcendent and immanent become one. Now, what is the transcendent? What is immanent? That you have to understand. So these are the 7 states. Okay. It doesn't mean that everybody has to go through 7 states. Okay. Only I'm trying to point out that 7th state is a jump. 7th state is not a, because you do, you'll get it. Cause effect is not there. Or I want to become Brahman by doing something, is not possible because you are already Brahman. Okay. You have to recognize it. It's like, I want to become a woman. Are you already a woman? No. I want to become a film actor. Oh, that's okay. You can do something about it. But if you want to become a woman, you can't do anything. You're already a woman. If you want, I want to become Brahman, you cannot do by doing anything. You cannot do. We have to recognize it. That's through Jnana. Understand? It's not through a practice. By doing something, you can get something. But doing something, you cannot become Brahman, because if you're already Brahman, how will you become Brahman? Okay. I am Brahman, I have to recognize through Jnana. That's the jump. Jnana is not an activity. Whereas everything else is activity. I'll do practice samadhi, I'll get some higher consciousness, all those samadhi. Now, all these states, 1 to 6 are temporary. They are not permanent. They appear and disappear. Whereas 7th is the real state. 7th is the permanent. And it's already there. They're not able to recognize it. Advaita. So now what is transcendent and what is immanent? Transcendent is Atma. Okay. When the body, mind, intellect, everything is objective, the pure subject is called Atma. That's transcendent. Immanent is that Atma is present in all your experience. When you say I am, the pure I am, the I am what is pointing out is the Atma. I am coming, I am going, I went to, I was born, I grew up, I went there. I is not changing. The unchanging I is pointed by Turiya or Atma. Okay, that's the transcendent. What is transcendent? Body, mind, intellect, you remove. Negative, negate. Neti, neti, neti. Then what remains is the Pratyagatma or Turiya, Pratyagatma. Okay. So now that Pratyagatma is Brahman. Right? That Pratyagatma, I am present in all my experiences. Any experience I have in the world experience, waking state, dream state, I am present. So that's why that I am or Atma is immanent also in the world also as Brahman. So that way you have to transcend. From transformation to transcendence has to happen. Transformation is required, is required. Transcendence through Jnana. The question is there, Turiya and Sakshi are same. Sakshi is Turiya, right? Because Turiya means, what is the meaning of Turiya? Beyond 3, beyond waking state, dream state, deep sleep is Turiya. Who is beyond waking state, dream state, deep sleep? Sakshi. Sakshi is Turiya. So transcendent immanence is clear? Now we are coming to your sloka. This is the background. So the question which you asked is about this sloka. Let us chant this sloka. Na anta pradnaha, na baish pradnaha, na ubaya pradnaha, na pradnanaganam, na apragnim, na pragnim, adrishtam, avyavaharam, agrahayam, alakshanam, achintyam, avyapadesha, padesham, ekatma, pratyasaram, prapanchopashamam, shantam, shivam, advaitam, chaturtam manyate, sa atma, sa vidneya. Is the Mandukya Upanishad sloka number 7. So the Rishi is saying the Turiya state. What is the nature of Turiya? That he has no outward consciousness, not inward consciousness. The outward consciousness is about the consciousness of the world. Inward consciousness is the consciousness of the mind. Or both sides, both together. It's not a mass of consciousness. Okay? Means like deep sleep. It's not knowing consciousness. There's no not knowingness there. It's not unconscious also. It's beyond perception, beyond description, beyond transaction, beyond grasping, beyond inference, beyond thoughts, beyond description, traceable through. Then you say, oh, it's impossible to get it. What is not, what is beyond? But it is very much you can recognize it through self-awareness. So that is the meaning of this sloka. How it's free from the world. It's tranquil, auspicious. It's non-dual. It is Atma. It is to be known. Oh, if it's all this, how can I know this? Okay. It cannot be seen. It cannot be touched. It cannot be felt. Okay. It's not graspable. Still it can be known. And that knowledge is called Brahmadhana or Atmadhana. So one story which comes to my mind. in this, many of the Upanishad teachings are also can be told, are appearing as Purana as in the form of stories. There's a demon called Hiranyakashipu, okay, who had a boon, who cannot be killed by anybody, by Brahmaji. He cannot be killed inside, he cannot be killed outside, he cannot be killed in light, he cannot be killed in darkness. Okay, he cannot be killed by weapons. Then Prahlada, when his son prays, Narasimha appears, neither a man nor a woman, nor a human, nor an animal. So the Narasimha kills the Hiranyakashipu. And that, what is it? Hostilo, that threshold, right? Near the door, which is neither inside nor outside. Okay, and he kills him neither with a weapon, he just kills with the nails. So in a sense, Mandukya Upanishad, this is a representation of what is there in Mandukya Upanishad. Narasimha represents a pure consciousness, Brahman, awareness. Hiranyakashipu represents the ignorance. The nails of Narasimha represent Jnana. It's neither not a weapon. Okay, and neither inside nor outside, neither outer consciousness nor inner consciousness, not both. So there is a killing of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu represents the ignorance, Ajnana. In a graphical way, Mandukya Upanishad story is told in the form of Purana. So now let us take, many people start thinking Turiyam as a fourth state. Okay, Turiyam is not a state in that sense. Turiya is not a state. Waking state is state, dream state is state, deep sleep is state. Waking state appears and disappears, dream appears and disappears, deep sleep also appears and disappears. Turiya doesn't appear and disappear. If it appears and disappears, it becomes temporary state. Right? It is there in as a background of all. Okay. Now, you can imagine Turiyam is like a movie screen. The movie keeps on appearing, but the screen doesn't change. That's Turiyam. Equal of that. Awareness is like that. Okay. Awareness is the knowing principle. Okay. It is beyond all the three states. All the three states come and go. Nothing. Movie can come and go. Something can happen in the movie, but nothing happens on the screen. Right? There's a fire in the screen, fire in the movie, nothing happens. So similarly, waking state, dream state, deep sleep state, nothing happened to Turiyam. And who is the Turiyam? Is you. So you cannot get Turiyam by some practice. It's like saying, I can become a woman by doing some practice. You have to recognize yourself through Jnana. Okay? All the states, Vishwa, Taijasa, and Prajna, the waker, dreamer, and deep sleep are relative states. Turiya is the absolute. Now, can I separate Turiya and get the Turiya separately? Not possible. I want to be in Turiya all the time. That will happen only after you die. Videha Mukti. And the body is dropped. Understand? So, when the body is alive, you cannot be there. Turiya. Then you are not there. Right? So, Jiva cannot get Turiya as a state. But people do meditation. In meditation, I had a very blissful experience. That is actually, mind has laya, temporarily touched silence. It's called laya. Okay, mind has merged. Just like deep sleep, mind has merged and you experience bliss. In the waking state, mind merges and laya, that's called samadhi. Okay. Where it is merged, all merger happens in Turiya only. Everything appears from Turiya and merges back into Turiya. But Turiya itself is unaffected. Wave rises in water and falls in water, but nothing happens to water. Okay. So now Turiya cannot be separated from waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. It is impossible to separate physically. Right? But logically it's possible, not physically. Through Jnana. The logical separation of Turiya from waking state, dream state, deep sleep, it is called Viveka, discrimination. So how does discrimination happen? Through study of Vedanta. Various aspects of Vedanta, you discriminate. I am Turiya. This is body mind. This is Atma. This is Anatma. The separation has to be logically, not physically impossible. Physically, I'll meditate and may become Turiya. It's not possible. You can get some bliss. Okay, blissful experience you can get like deep sleep, but that itself is not Turiya. Right? You go to transcendent, you got transcendent. Oh, I have transcendent body, mind, intellect. Body, I experience bliss. So that means still experience. But you touch your transcendental consciousness, we can say. Right? It is called Laya, not Nasha. Ignorance has not gone. Still, I have to get Atma in Samadhi. So then Atma becomes a state of Samadhi. Then again, it becomes limited by Samadhi state. Okay. So now you cannot separate consciousness from anything. It's like saying, you cannot separate consciousness from anything. If you separate consciousness from anything, that thing has no existence. So it's like saying, I want to take out mud from pot. If you take out Turiya from anything, it is not there. That thing is not there. Right? I want to remove Turiya and find out Turiya separately. It's not possible. Then you are not there. You are Mithya, unreal. Right? So as long as you are there and Turiya is there, you can find out Turiya logically, not physically. Correct? Understand? And you will find Turiya physically when you are not there. When you are dead. Vidya Mukti. When Jivan Mukti is there, you have to find Turiya. How? Logically. How do you find Turiya? By finding Turiya, first you have to understand Turiya. What is that? Drakdashiveka. Atma, what is seer, seen, you have to separate out. What is Atma and Atma, you have to separate out. Okay. Satya and Mithya, you have to understand. You have to understand Vedantic teaching, contemplative Vedantic teaching. Right? Then you have to understand anything other than Turiya is Mithya. Okay? Body, mind, intellect, world is Mithya. Right? I am suffering. Absolutely Mithya. I want freedom from suffering. Mithya. I am Turiya. That's Satya. So, whenever you are saying, actually people come and say, I am suffering, please free me. Then I ask the question, who am I? Who are you? Then immediately they'll get angry. Okay. I am suffering. You are asking, who am I? I've heard a million times, who am I? I have not got million, who am I? Okay. The one who suffers has no suffering. One who is not suffering, okay. See, it's like saying this. Mind has no solution. Okay. Because it's Nitya. Atma has no problem. It is Satya. Now you have to decide, who are you? Atma or mind? Permanently. That is called Dana, Atman Dana. If you keep on taking I am the mind, you'll keep on suffering. There's no solution. You can get one solution from psychiatrist, another solution from doctor. Okay. Anywhere you can get some temporary solution. No solution is permanent. The mind has only one solution. When the mind understands, I am Brahman, I am really Turiya. Mind, the problem with the mind is wrong understanding. I am the body, I am the mind, intellect. That's why you have to do negation. What is the negation? Nanu, Nanembudu, Nanalla, Ideha, Manabuddhi, Nanalla, Sachidanandatma, Shivananu Nani, Shivoham, Shivoham, Shivoham. What you are not, you have to negate. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect. All this body, mind, intellect are anatma. They are appearing and disappearing. Then you have to ascertain, Shivoham, I'm Shiva, I'm pure consciousness. Now the problem is, what is this pure consciousness? What's Shiva? Then you have to understand the definition of Shiva. Otherwise, you will think Shiva means somebody sitting in Kailasa. So when you go to Kailasa, you start asking. Okay. Shiva means your consciousness. What is the nature of consciousness? That consciousness is not an experiencer. Okay. Experiencer is the buddhi, intellect, jiva. Experience comes and goes. Experiencer also changes. So the experiencer says, oh, I went to Himalayas, beautiful experience. Now I'm suffering. The experience has changed. But you are not changed. One who is saying that is not changed. That's why you are not the experiencer. Okay. The knower of experiencer, knower has taken the form of experiencer. But deep inside, the knower has not changed. It is unchanged knowing. So it's not an experiencer. That's why any states, comma, 3 states of consciousness, waking state, deep sleep state, or supernatural powers, mind reading, okay, or flying in the astral travel, right? Or even what you call a samadhi, okay? All are experiences, and you are not the experiencer. Because the experience is changed. Now, before samadhi, I was not suffering. After samadhi, in samadhi, I am blissful. After samadhi, again, I'm back to normal. So what has happened to you? The experience has changed. But you are not changed. The knower has not changed. The knower also has knowledge and ignorance. The knower is nothing but Atma, which is knowing principle, where there's no knowledge and ignorance. It's not an object of experience. So the main problem in spirituality is, I am Brahman. I want to get the experience of Brahman. Okay. So, yes, I've heard a lot of Vedanta, but I'm not getting the experience of Brahman. How can he experience the experiencer? How can he experience knower? Right? The Brahman cannot be experienced. If he becomes the experience, he becomes an object. You cannot experience Brahman. The moment you experience Brahman, Brahman becomes finite. Infinite cannot be experienced. So it's not an object of experience because Brahman has no name, no form, no touch, no sound, no smell, no taste. Touch, sound, smell, taste is not there. The knowing principle throws light on all this. Okay. So Brahman is not an object of experience. So entire problem of spirituality is we're constantly looking for experience. Okay. I want to do a spiritual journey. I want to have blissful experience. So blissful experience, you go pay a lot of price. You go to Himalayas. You do meditate in a cave. So much you try to do blissful experience. But Brahman is not a blissful experience. Experience are mithya. Brahman is the source of blissful experience. So consciousness is Turiyam. Turiyam means beyond waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. But it is present in the waking state, present in dream state, present in deep sleep. You cannot separate waking state, dream state, deep sleep state from Turiya. But Turiyam is present when waking state is not there, dream state is not there, deep sleep state is not there. It's there beyond all the three. And how do I know Turiya? Whenever you speak of I am, you are already speaking of Turiya. I am coming, I am going, I am happy, I am unhappy, I was born here. I has not changed. You are speaking of something which is already unchanging. But you confuse yourself with the body and mind. Vedanta helps you to remove the confusion of anatma with atma. Nitya with anitya. This separation should be logical, not physical, not psychological. So that's why I'm not the waker, I'm not the dreamer, I'm not the deep sleep person. I'm not the Jagrata, Swapna, Sushupti. I'm not the Vishwa, I'm not the Taijasa, I'm not the Sushupti. Then who am I? How are they related to me? Are they related to me? They appear and disappear. I play the role of Vishwa, I play the role of Turiya, I play the role of Taijasa. Okay? It's like an actor plays the role of a king. Then he plays the role of a servant. Then he plays the role of a villain. Now the dresses are not real. They're all there for action, acting. The dresses are there for only show. And he plays the role. His actor is not forgotten himself that he is the actor. He uses the false dresses. False dress of a king, false dress of a servant, false dress of a thief. Right? Similarly, you are using false dress of a body in the waking state, false dress of a dreamer body in dream state, and false dress of a deep sleep. That's mithya. Mithya body where? So this way you are not Vishwa, Taijasa or Turiya, Pradna. You are the one who plays the role of Vishwa, Pradna and Turiya. Playing the role is also not problem. Playing the role is also okay. But forgetting that you are Turiyam is the problem. Okay? Then you're constantly searching for Turiyam. I want to become Turiyam. I want to become Brahman. You constantly search. That's the problem. And I want to have the experience also is the problem. Okay. So now it's Brahman is beyond inference. Okay. There's somebody called Brahman. I am Brahman. You'll never be able to come out of inference. Never be able to logically find out. Inference is logic required. Because inference requires sense inputs. You can infer that there is a smoke only if there is a fire. Okay. Fire should be available. Oh, sorry, fire. You see the smoke and then see there's a fire. At least you should see smoke through sense organs. Then you say infer fire. That means for inference you need a sense inputs. When Turiyam is not available for sense inputs, how do you infer about it? That's why no science and mathematics and physics and chemistry cannot find out Turiyam. Neither you cannot infer. Oh, I am Brahman, Turiyam is there. You cannot infer. So then beyond description, Turiyam cannot be described. No matter what you want to describe, you cannot describe. You can describe what has a name and form. What has no name and form, you cannot describe. Okay. So you can say chair because chair has a shape. You can say table has a shape. Okay. You can say yellow color is there. But and no, he is my uncle. This relationship is there. You can describe something which has a form and a shape. Turiam has no form and shape. So you cannot describe Turiam. It's free from the world. Okay. The world is less appearance in Turiam. So it's like wave appears, water appears as wave. Now is wave in water, wave in the water, is water, the wave is there in the water. Water is there in the wave, but wave is not there in the water. Right? Understand? Gold is there in the necklace, but necklace is not in the gold. I mean, you can say it's the causal form, it's there, but necklace is not in gold. So what happens? Turiam is free from all objects. You don't have to remove the object physically. You don't have to remove the wave to find out it is water. Wave is water only. Water appears as a wave. Name and form is superimposition on water. Correct? So water is wave. You don't have to destroy wave to find water. Similarly, you don't have to destroy waker, dreamer, and deep sleep person to find a Turiam. Logically, you have to find out. Through Dnana, Viveka and Vairagya. Is free from the world. World appears in Turiam, but Turiam itself is free from world. It's like wave appears in water, but water itself is free from wave. Are you clear? So it's like a dream, no? In the dream world, a dream world appeared in you. So many things you saw in the dream. It appeared in your consciousness. Okay, when you wake up from the dream, there's nothing is there. The consciousness, the dream is not in the consciousness. Dream appeared in the consciousness. Advaitam, there's no second thing. Okay, there's no thing other than consciousness. No, there's a world. There's no such thing called world. So it's like no Advitiyam. Gold is Advitiyam, we can say. Gold and necklace, there are no two things. Go to a shopkeeper. Okay, give me necklace. He'll start giving gold. Weighs in the gold machine. No. I want a necklace without gold. Is it possible? There's no such thing called necklace without gold. There's no such thing called world without Turiam. But there's Turiam without the world. Right? Consciousness without the world. Okay. Now, is world opposing consciousness? World cannot oppose consciousness. Wave cannot oppose water. Necklace cannot oppose gold. Necklace is gold only. So world has to disappear before I realize Turiam. Then it's false, because then you world and Turiam you make as a dual conditioning. Okay, Turiam is present all the time, everywhere. There's no dual, Advaitam. There's no duality there. If there is a duality, then you say world is there, then until the world goes, I cannot find Atma. Okay, wave is there, until wave goes, I cannot find water. It's meaningless. Wave is just appearance of water. You have to find water with the wave. That's why many people try to do meditation practice where I have to make the mind blank. The world has to disappear from me. Okay, they will enter into unconsciousness. They will not find Turiya. Right? And many people are happy with that also. Continuously, repeatedly doing, going to some thoughtless state. So thoughtless state is not Turiya. Thoughtless state, everything is Turiya, but thoughtlessness does not give you Turiya, because thought, then you say Turiya is opposed to thought. Turiya is not opposed to thought. Right? It's called fourth state. Turiya means beyond three. Okay. In English, they translate as fourth state. The fourth state is wrong. It is beyond three is the correct. With reference to waking state, dream state, deep sleep state, Turiyam is beyond three, because these three states present when the Turiyam is present. These three states are absent, Turiyam is there. Turiyam is beyond three in that sense. Shantam. Okay. Nothing can disturb Turiya. Oh, I am very disturbed. Who are you? Mind. I am is not disturbed. Right? If I am is disturbed, then I am cannot be there. Nobody can save you. I am is there in disturbance. I am is there in peace. I am is there in happiness. That I am is Atma. That's Brahman. It is tranquil, peaceful. World cannot disturb Turiyam. Okay. It's like movie cannot disturb the screen. Snake which is seen in the rope cannot disturb the rope. So when you say I am unhappy, You have to decide what you are. If you are a mind, nobody can save you. Okay. If you're Atma, you don't need saving. You have to decide what are you. Shivam. Shivam means free from sorrow. Sorrow is there, happiness is there, unhappiness is there. The sorrow is there. Jiva says, I am happy, I am unhappy because I identify with mind. When the Jiva identifies, I am not happy, I am not the mind, I am Brahman. He is free from sorrow. Shivam. Shivam means the meaning of Shiva is free from sorrow. That's why Nanu, Nanembudu, Nanalla, Ideha, Manabuddhi, Nanalla, Sachidananda Atma, Shivananu Nani, Shivoham, Shivoham, Shivoham. The moment Shivoham says, you start thinking of Shiva sitting in Kailasa. The Shivoham means free from sorrow. Who is free from sorrow? Only Advaitam is free from sorrow. Only non-dual reality is free from sorrow. That's consciousness. Okay. Now, Turiya is the only reality, and he plays the mithya roles. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, all roles are mithya because they appear and disappear. Only reality is Turiyam. Prapanchopashamam. Okay. The prapancha, the world disturbs us. So much of suffering I experience the world. Everything disturbs me. Right? Prapancha upashamam. World disturbs me in many ways. Gain and loss, happiness and unhappiness, friendship and enemy, war, diseases, they disturb me. Me as a Jiva. Jiva is Jivatvam. I am the body, I am the mind. I am. If the Jiva is understood, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not, I am Shiva Swarupi, then how can world disturb me? World is just an appearance. A snake on the rope cannot bite me. Okay. The world is just a appearance. That's why prapanchopasham means the disturbance of the world is removed. Ekatma pratyaya saram. Ekatma pratyaya saram. This is the keyword. So if all these complications are there, it has no name, no form, all those problems are there, then how do I find? You can find it very easily, very, very easily. Atma, Brahman. Ekatma pratyaya saram. Atma pratyaya means self-awareness. Pratyaya means awareness. Essence of self-awareness is Atma. What is the essence of self-awareness? I am. I know. Whenever you use the word I, you are referring to self. I am aware. You are using the self-awareness. So, whatever you know, there is knowledge. Knowledge is there because of awareness. Essence of knowledge. Essence of what I call as I. Self. The essence of self is awareness. So, you can find, you can know Atma very clearly. You can never know Atma as object. You can never know Atma as awareness. Ekatma pratyaya sara. Pratyaya means awareness. Ekatma is self. Okay. I am the self. I am awareness. Like that, you know. That I am awareness, I am Brahman, saying that. Now you tell me, are you aware? Tell me you are not aware. Can you say, I don't have awareness? You can say, I don't have knowledge, but I don't have awareness, you cannot say, because awareness is primary property. You know yourself as awareness. You cannot say, I don't exist. Okay, existence is the primary property. Awareness is primary property. That awareness and existence is Brahman. And what you don't know is that is infinite Brahman. That infinite Brahman you have to understand through Vedantic teaching. Tattvamasi. Okay. In the waking state, dream state, deep sleep state, whenever you use the word I am, you are only pointing to that Pratyaya Brahman, awareness, self. Because I stands for consciousness, am stands for existence. Existence consciously you are pointing out. Only problem is that you don't know your Ananta, infinite. You are infinite because you are there in the waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. They are all finite. They are limitation. They are all mithya. If you don't understand it's mithya, you feel it's limited. When you wear a beggar's dress, when the actor wears a beggar's dress, he thinks he is an actor, then he is limited. When he knows that he is an actor, beggar's role, he will not be limited. Okay. So now you ignore what is state, then waking state, dream state, deep sleep state, the contradictory feature, then what is there is awareness. Pratyasara means that essential nature which is not affected by waking state, dream state, this. So now that's where you have, that's the meaning of Soham, Shivoham, I am Shiva. Now, unless a clear Jnana arises out of Atma Jnana, Vivek and Vairagya, Soham is a Dhyana, Upasana. In Upasana, there is still imagination, I am Shiva. Okay? When you understand the real meaning of Soham through Jnana, you are Jivanmukta, liberated. So that's why I am not Vishwa, I am not Taijasa, I am Pradna. These are states of the mind. I am the witness of waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. I don't need any samadhi to I have to understand I am Brahman. Only Atma Vichara is sufficient. Any questions? For one line question, one page answer. So anybody in the Zoom have a question? So anything missing? Okay, let us complete it. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti 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 Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamuduchyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Nanembudu Nanalla Ideha Manabuddhi Nanalla Sachidanandatma Shivananunani Shivoham Shivoham Shivoham. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm pure consciousness, Shivaswarupi. So one who says I'm the body, I'm the mind, I'm the intellect, he is in the Jiva consciousness. One who is stabilized in I am all this, is Ishvara. One who has gone beyond this, Ishvara is existence. So one who has gone to pure existence knows himself as awareness, which is free from any nama rupa, and operates from that in the day-to-day life, in the waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. He is in Sahaja Samadhi, natural state. He is Brahmadna, he is Brahmavid, or he is a Jnani. Okay? So Jnani does not require any practice to realize he is Brahman. He is already established in Brahman. Such a person is called Turiyatita. Now there's no point in saying Turiya. Turiya is with reference to waking, the person who is in waking state, dream state, deep state, that's Turiya. It's like, where is the temple? Temple is there, beyond the hill. You are giving a reference. Waking state, dream state, deep sleep state, three states as a reference for Turiya. Now, if you are in the on the top of the hill and temple, this is Turiya. This here, this is temple. Like that, this is Turiya. One who knows this is Turiya, I am Turiya, he is called Turiyatita. He operates from that. Atmadarshanam, Brahmadarshanam, Brahmadarshanam, Satyadarshanam. To know the self is to know God. To know God is to be God. To be God is to know the truth. Antarjyotihi, Bahirjyotihi, Pratyak Jyotihi, Paratpara, Jyotireva Jyotihi, Swayam Jyotihi, Atma Jyotihi, Shivosmiham. I am the light, light of the self, awareness. I am the light for the world. I am the light for the mind. I am the light beyond all lights, supreme light. I am the light of self, Atma Jyoti, light of love, light of peace, light of wisdom. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। हरिः ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम। So, any questions, Gayatri, Dawal, Smita, Pratibha? It's too heavy question. Too heavy ಐತೆ ಅಂತ ಇಷ್ಟೇ ಕೇಳಕ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾ? Okay, Gayatri, we'll close this. It's already 1 o'clock.